Hello, everybody. My name is Aisha Cogborn, and I want to welcome you to a party. That's what we're doing here. It is a party for the launch of the brand new book by Dr. Nadia Brown, who's right here with me. And that book, Sell Like a Lady, How to Master Sales. With, not just by themselves, how to master sales with dignity, class, and grace. And guess what? The book dropped today. And so we are here and we are celebrating with you. And we have a lot of exciting things that are happening today. We have special guests that you're going to get to hear from. And there is going to be a drawing for $100 Amazon gift card. And if you just hang around, we're going to tell you how you can get entered into that drawing. But I want you to do me a favor right now. If you are watching this, wherever you're at, if you are on Facebook, if you are on LinkedIn, if you are on YouTube, just go ahead and drop us a note, say hello, let us know where you're watching from, and hit that share button, and so that your friends, your colleagues can benefit from this conversation as well. And we would love to hear from you. And so we know that sales is one of those topics that not a lot of people like to talk about. I don't know too many other people like Dr. Nadia who say they just love sales, but she does. And so if you have any questions about sales, any challenges with sales, anything you'd like to share, then please go ahead and drop your questions, your comments in the chat. My friend LaVista Jones is on the other side of that camera, and she'll be chatting with you throughout the conversation. And at a couple of times during the show, we will be answering your questions. So make sure that you get them in. But now, let's go ahead and meet the woman of the hour, and that is Dr. Nadia Brown. Dr. Nadia is the founder of the Doyen Agency, a global sales and sales training agency dedicated to educating and equipping women business leaders to pursue their passion, own their power, and increase their profits. Dr. Nadia is passionate about helping clients increase their revenue so they can have a bigger impact on the world. Look, it's nice to buy some stuff, but when you can make an impact on the world because you're making more money, because it's not just about you, then that makes all the difference in the world. And this is not Dr. Nadia's first book. This is her second book. Her first book is Leading Like a Lady, How to Shatter Your Inner Glass Ceiling. And she's also a contributing author to two of my books, the On Purpose anthology series. So Dr. Nadia, we're so excited to be here and to celebrate the launch of the book.
Thank you. I'm so excited. It's finally here.
Finally here. Look, if you've never written a book before, it's more than a notion.
It's a journey. It is quite a journey. And this one had a lot of bumps that I was not expecting.
Yes.
You think that you've done this before, and so you're like, I got this. And then it's like, I don't got this.
I don't know what it is, because I'm going through the process right now of working on another book, and I'm experiencing the same thing. So I think there's something in the air, something in the water. I don't know what it is, but I need it to go away.
Me too. Just be done.
So what was it that made you decide that you wanted to write a book about sales?
Oh my gosh. I think it was my journey, dealing with sales. So I have not always loved sales. I actually at one point hated sales, and I paid the price for not liking sales. And so we know when you have a business, you need revenue, you need consistent revenue, you need cash flow. And I had none of that. I had cash flow, and it was all flowing out. And so I went on my own personal journey to overcome the challenges and to really find my style. And then I realized that there were other women who were like me, and they were like, Nadia, hello, what about us? And so I have a lot of powerful, strong-willed women that are part of my life. And they were like, girl, you are not about to sit on this gift. And so that was part of what it was like, you know what, let's talk about it. Let's talk about how we can do sales in a way that honors us as women.
Yeah.
That was why I was very purposeful and using words like dignity, class, or grace. Like, who talks about sales and use those words?
Right.
Right. No one. It's just like, no, I hate sales. It's gross. It's icky. Like all the. So I wanted to really start the conversation around shifting that paradigm around sales.
Yeah. So sell like a lady. So that insinuates that there is some inherent difference perhaps between the way men typically sell and women sell. Tell us more about that.
Yes. So if you haven't noticed, men and women are very different. And a lot of the sales trainings that I've attended, I've been a part of, especially on my journey, were facilitated or had a very masculine tone.
Yeah.
And I just realized that was part of why I was like, we don't get down like that. And so even in the research for the book, really looking at how women operate, how we seek to build relationships. And so when you look at a sales process that takes that out and it's only focused on get the sale, get the sale, get the sale, get the credit card. And it's like, I get that that's an important piece, but what about this person that's sitting right here in front of me? What about what they're going through? What about their story, right? What about what's going on with them as a whole? And really understanding that when I get to know Aisha, I get to know Aisha, and there's more to just the sale. It's about building a relationship. The problem that we have with that is that it takes time, and we don't want to take time. We want, girl, I want to talk to you today, and in 27 minutes or less, I want the sale.
Yeah.
And that's not always how this works.
Yeah. I want to talk about that for a second too, because one of the things that I've found myself falling into is if we have a conversation a couple of times and it's, oh, let's follow up again. Let's follow up. Call me back in a month. Call me back in 3 months. I used to think, well, you just must not be interested and you're stringing me along. Is that always true?
No. And when I say that, I can say that with all certainty because I've been doing this now for years. And I have seen where people, when they're ready, they're ready. And then they call you sometimes or they reach out and they're like, Dr. Nadia, I'm ready. And you're like, yay. And then you look, you're like, girl, how many years with an S, y'all, has it taken us to get to this point? You also have to understand that people have different buying cycles. Like people have their own process. And so it's easy to dismiss a person's process.
Yeah.
One of the reminders for me is my husband, Toby. We are so vastly different, but I know that when Toby has done his process of research and spreadsheets or whatever, right? He's made that choice. He's in.
Yeah.
He's also loyal.
Yes.
And I think that sometimes we only want to focus on the buyers that come to us when they're ready. And that's not always the case. So that's why I emphasize focusing on relationship, because I may call you today and want to work with you, and my bank account just does not support my desire in that moment.
Yeah.
But I get to know you, and I'm like, when my bank account aligns with my desires, I know I want to work with you.
Right.
And that's what we want to create. So there are people who are going to come to us ready.
Yeah.
We love them. And there are people who won't be ready yet.
Yeah.
And we want to focus on that relationship piece.
Yeah. Something that you said there, when Toby goes through his process, or people that take longer once they've decided, like they know. I have run into people who may be sometimes more impulsive with a purchase, and then they're second guessing, or I've even done it myself. It's like, oh, did I just do that because I got caught up in the emotion of something? And then you're thinking to yourself, did I make the right decision?
Oh, yeah.
How can you help people to feel confident about that decision when they're working with you and deciding, I'm going to swipe that credit card, I'm going to make this investment, particularly if it's a significant investment?
Right. So a couple ways. One is in the conversation, asking questions. So one of your questions could be, how certain, like what doubts might you have? What concerns might you have? Is there someone in your world, like you hang up, like I have a spouse, so I hang up the phone, I'm all excited, I share with my spouse and he's not, and I'm like, ooh, right? Because a lot of times it's internal, but sometimes it's external voices.
Yeah.
Another way, depending on how, like I have a client who just recently hosted a live event, and when she when she made her invitation for people to enroll in her program, she told them, I don't want you to rush to the back of the room. Now, how many times have we been in an event and somebody's like, no, what I want you to do is I want you to go sleep on it. And then come back tomorrow with your questions.
Ooh.
I can address those, and then you can make a decision. But that's scary, right?
Yeah.
Because we want that instant gratification.
Yeah.
And what if, right? But I think sometimes giving people the space and honoring that, or even being preemptive like she was, and saying, no, I don't want you to make a decision today.
Yeah.
I want you to go sleep on it, because I want you to be sure, because I don't want to deal with refund requests or having to constantly convince you. Right now we're in convincing, because now I have to constantly remind you that you made a good decision. I want you to feel good about it.
Yeah.
And you can say that, like, I would love for you to feel good about this decision. Are you feeling it? Do you need to take a moment and sleep on it? Like, that's a fair question to ask. It's a scary one.
Yeah.
But it's better for them to know that they know, and you guys
Right.
can move forward, so that you're not having to resell them basically throughout your entire relationship.
Yeah, that's a good point. And when we think about that, just even that feeling, I got to get the sale right now, that's more about us, isn't it? It's about them.
It's all about you.
Yeah.
Because you didn't think about it. One, a lot of sales trainings is only focused on, I remember working with coaches, and the minute you call, or you're done with a sales call, you call in, you check in or whatever. And it's like, well, how did it go? Did you get the sale? That's the first question.
Yeah.
And so you're already like, oh, I didn't get the sale. So I'm dreading this conversation, right? And so one of the things, and it's really difficult, I know it's difficult, is to separate you and really focus on what's in the best interest of your client. Because like you said, a lot of times we're inviting people to invest $10, $15, $20, $30, $50,000, right? Like, these are not insignificant choices or decisions. And when you can create the space and allow people to go through that process, or even being a little disruptive and being like, I don't want you to make a choice today.
Yeah.
I want you to, sleep on it, and we'll talk tomorrow. Like, how many times have you ever had a conversation and the salesperson was like, girl, go sleep on it and call me tomorrow?
Never.
Right? Exactly. So,
Never in life.
never. We're all like, give me the credit. Girl, give me the credit card. Go give me the credit. But again, it's about you, because you're thinking about your bank account, whatever goal you have, or whatever is going on in your mind around you. And you're taking the focus off your prospect.
Yeah. So I want to focus again on this notion of selling like a lady. What if somebody is looking at this like, well, what do you mean a lady? Lady, that sounds soft. That sounds weak.
Yeah.
I'm strong.
Yeah.
I'm independent. What do you mean? Like,
I get it. So, when you come up with titles like this, you're always like, should I really do this? But the reason why, one, lady does not mean any of those things. Lady really, and I define it in the book. I'm a word nerd, so trust me, there's lots of definitions in this book. But it's really about, really standing in your power. When I think about lady, I think about powerful, but I also think about being a powerful woman who gets to show up powerfully as me.
Yeah.
And when I think even back to my career prior to leaving corporate, when I started out, I was an IT nerd. So I worked in engineering, lots of guys. And it was such a challenge to figure out how I'm going to be successful in this role, in this company, have my voice heard, be respected, and still show up as Nadia, right?
Yes.
I don't have to try to be like Bob.
Yes.
I'm not Bob. There's no way I could ever be Bob. But there is that notion that in order for me to be a respected woman leader, I have to somehow be more masculine, or I have to be mean.
Yeah.
I don't know when we decided that being mean was leader-like, but it's either I have to be a mean, strong, stern, just can't show emotion type woman. That's how I'm going to get respect. No, that's how you're going to be disliked.
Right.
People are just not going to fool with you. So it's really like, how do I show up as me?
Yeah.
With my personality, with my hair, if I want to wear frilly dress, right? And still be effective in my business. Like, I'm not blind to the notion that we need revenue to build a business, but I feel like we can do it in a way that feels good and is effective.
Yeah. Dignity, class, grace. Tell me why, because you're a word nerd. Why those three words?
Well, first, not a lot of times, every single time I've done a sales training and I have asked the question, what comes up for you when you think about sales? I hear slimy, manipulative. I have to convince people to work with me. Lying. You know, these are the things, sleazy, that people feel about sales. And no one has ever said, I feel dignified. I'm proud to be a salesperson. I can do it in a way that's classy. I can do it in a way that's graceful. Like, we don't talk about sales in that way. And yet you can be dignified. Like, when you are honest and you are operating in integrity and you are honoring your values, that is operating out of dignity and class.
Yes.
And you can do sales in that way. I know way too many people who do sales in that way in their businesses, and their businesses are not broke, busted, and disgusted.
Right.
And so it's really starting to shift how we talk about sales, shift how we think about sales, because so many women are starting businesses. Like, the numbers are just astronomical.
Yes.
And so we need to be able to do it in a way where we can make money and make a difference.
Yeah. When we, again, think about the differences between women selling, men selling, I think one of the reasons, and really this isn't even a man or woman thing, but one of the reasons that I think so many people do struggle with sales is that the tactics that they're using are out of integrity with who they are.
And you feel like, because you see big names, like we can all probably rattle off a whole bunch of big names, or even tactics that we witnessed, and we've been sometimes victim of, right? But you're like, but it works, right? You see, and you're like, well, apparently it works. Like, these people have lots of money, they have lots of clients, and we don't always get to see behind the black curtain, right? You don't get to see what's going on, because you mentioned like buyer's remorse and attrition rates. Like, these names don't talk about that. Like, that's the dirty little secret. We're gonna sweep that under the rug. But when you see it working, you're like, well, clearly, because then you look at your way and you're like, well, my way doesn't seem to be working, but their way seems to be working. And so I'm going to just try it their way. But then it's like, no, I can't do that. And so that's where that whole struggle comes from.
In the book, one of the things that you spend a lot of time talking about is fear. What do you think that fear is rooted in when it comes to sales?
Rejection. Hands down. People, we're worried about being rejected. Again, we make it about us. And, we don't like the word no. I don't know what it is about women. We don't like to hear it, and a lot of us don't even know how to say it. But that's Lavisa's book. So. But, really just dealing with the root of rejection, and then what does that say about us? What emotions does it bring up? Sometimes it's triggering. Like, it can get to be a really deep conversation. But I think a lot of times it's just, they said no. What does that mean about me? Because I also work primarily with service-based business owners, right? So a lot of times your service is you. You. So it's like, wait a minute, you just said no essentially to me. So inherently then that means something is wrong with me. And that's kind of what we twist that message to mean. But it really, that person is also coming to the table with their own stuff. And so their decision has nothing to do with you. Unless you're mean, then it might have something to do with you.
It might be you there. Now, in the book, you talk about ways to overcome that fear, but we're not going to give you all of that here because you need to go get the book. So you can do that right now. If you go to selllikealady.com, you can get the book and you can find out all of those ways to begin to overcome that fear. Now, we talked about the challenge of just writing a book, period. What was the most difficult section or topic for you to cover as you were writing this?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think the most difficult is probably just really diving into talking about the differences between men and women, because I don't want this to feel like this is a woman's only thing, or that it's going to, make the men be the bad guy, right? This is not a book about making the men be the bad guy, but it is a book about honoring how we are different.
Right.
And I think there's a difference. And a lot of times, especially now in our current climate, it's like if I don't subscribe to your way of thinking, then I'm immediately your enemy. And so I'm not saying that the men are bad. I'm just saying the men are different. And that is obvious. And yet sometimes we can't talk about it. And so that part was, like really, how do I say this in such a way where people can get it? Yeah. And I think sometimes it happened recently during a podcast interview. I mentioned a book. And I rarely have interviews with men, but this was one of those rare occasions. And he was immediately like, this book isn't for me. It has nothing to do with me, because it's all for the ladies. And I was like, okay. And then, but as we were talking, and then, after we wrapped up, he goes, I wish I had said this on air, but if there is any man out there that sells to women or who is a sales leader and leads women, have women on their sales team, they need to read this book. Ooh. Because again, it's not about making men wrong. It's just about showing us women how we're different and how those differences are our superpower.
Yes. Wow, I really think about that. I've worked with, over the years of working in the corporate sector, a lot of women in sales. Typically the sales directors were men. And as I think about some of those women who may have struggled a bit, I just think now how much of it is because you were taught in a very, how to sell in a very masculine energy. And so it made you feel like I'm not good at this.
Right. And you're in a culture that rewarded certain behaviors that may not have, shown up as quickly, or certain results that you might not have gotten as quickly because of your approach. Right. And you're like, well, if I'm going to keep my job, I got to meet my quota, right? It's like, girl, I got to do by any means necessary to stay, employed. And so I get it.
You might get the bigger sale. It just may take you a little longer.
Exactly. Yeah.
But at the end of the year,
right,
your
those
numbers
things
might
right, but sometimes depending on how the organization is set up and how your performance is measured, like I don't have to the end of the year. I got to the end of the month. And I need to make some things happen, right? So just gotta do what you gotta do.
Ooh, okay. See, that's a whole nother, like we need version 2 just for the men who teach women to sell and sell to women. Like I want version 2.0.
Oh Lord, y'all gave me a whole nother book to write.
Whole nother book. Well, there was one of your clients, Devonna Willis, who had an opportunity, like I did and like a few other of us did, to read the book in advance. And let's take a look at what she had to say about it.
Hello, I'm Devonna Willis, and I really enjoyed Nadia Brown's Sell Like a Lady. It really meant a lot to me, especially in some of the notes that she had regarding establishing a relationship with your clients, especially I have a lot of women as my target market as well, and sharing some of the great tips and ideas with my team. It was really, really beneficial to me in my business. I took a lot of notes and really started putting into practice things of not only establishing relationships, but making sure that we're expressing how we can impact my clients' business and what we do, because I sell online courses as well as live classes and business coaching. And it's been really influential speaking to my team around restructuring some of the things and what we say to our potential clients and leads. So it's been really great, and I'm so happy that I had the opportunity to read the book and really write down great information. So thank you so much, Nadia, for writing this book for individuals like myself and other women business owners.
Great testimonial. I loved the book.
Thank you.
Absolutely loved it. And I love the fact that it's so practical. There are questions, there are just journals. We're going to talk about that in a minute. All sorts of goodies that folks can get from there. And actually, if you're just tuning in, you are here for the launch party for Sell Like a Lady, How to Master Sales with Dignity, Class, and Grace by Dr. Nadia Brown. And today the book has dropped. You can get your copy at selllikealady.com. And there is more than just one book. There is a whole bundle. So Dr. Nadia, tell us about the other goodies that you've got there too.
Yeah, so I'm writing this book and I see where I'm constantly like chapter after chapter saying, okay, now go grab your journal and, take a moment to answer these questions, because sales brings up a lot of emotions. And so I want to address that and give people space, the readers space, to process those emotions and think about some of the thoughts that we're thinking that we're not intentionally thinking about, but they're ruining our sales, right? And so there's a journal where you can take and, answer those questions. We also have the Courage Diary. And the Courage Diary, there's a funny story about the Courage Diary. So the Courage Diary was first published back in 2017, years before the book was done.
I have my copy of the original.
And it came about because again, I have these friends. And so one of my good friends, Stella Orange, she calls me one day and she's like, so Nadia, I'm going out of the country for an entire month. And at the time she had an online community. And she's like, I want you to come in and be my guest trainer for the month. And I want you to train on sales, and you need a free gift to give the people. I'm willing to brainstorm with you. So that was our brainchild, was this Courage Diary. And so over the years, it began to grow, because I'm like, well, I can add this, and I can add this, and I can add this. And so another good friend, Vanessa Collins, was like, girl, why are you giving this away for free? No, ma'am. No. So she does publishing. And so she took all the content and was like, so she used it with her students. They created a whole book. And so we put it on Amazon. And I was like, and I'm protesting the entire time. But the book isn't ready to go with the Courage. That's whole drama, just drama. We be in our ways so much. So anywho, now we have the updated version. Because again, this has been around a while and I've had a chance to really look at it. And people have used it and given feedback. So we've updated it and it looks great.
Yes.
But it's also a way to track your conversations, right? Because a lot of times, especially when you're new, you don't need all the bells and whistles. You really just need pen and paper.
Yes.
And write down the conversation, the questions that people are providing. One of the reasons why I love sales conversations is they are so rich with goodness.
Yes.
Even when people say no,
yes.
you get to hear questions. You get to hear where your messaging isn't clear. You're like, that was obvious to me, but it's not obvious to the last 10 people I talked to, right? You get to hear people's concerns. You get ideas for other services and ways you can serve people. Like, sales conversations are amazing. And so the Courage Diary was designed, one, because honestly, when you're having a sales conversation, the only thing you truly have control over is you.
Yeah.
I cannot make that person buy. There are things that I can obviously do to influence their decision, but I can't make them buy. I can't wrestle their credit card out their hand. But I feel like a lot of times as sales trainers or sales coaches, we don't acknowledge that. Like, how many times has your sales coach been like, great job for just getting on the phone, right? Like, it's like, no, did you get the sale? You didn't get the sale, you failed. Let's, focus on fixing that. And it's like, no, let's celebrate the fact that you had the courage to put yourself out there and invite someone to work with you, whether they say yes or not. And so now you have this record of all the times you did your part. And you can celebrate that. And I have one friend, she's like, every time I use my Courage Diary, I get a yes, right? So it's really designed to help you move through that process and really get accustomed to it. But there are also different questions and things that we ask because it gives you really rich data that you can use in your business.
That part. Because I tell you, one of the things that I see so many people challenged with is, because we'll decide, okay, this is what I want to do. And sometimes it's because we came from that world. We were that person. And so we may understand the person or, our ideal client or the problem very deeply because we were that person. But sometimes we're not. Sometimes the service or the product it doesn't connect to a need we've ever experienced.
Right.
And in that case, we may be very good at helping them solve that problem. But the way that we articulate the problem or the solution just may not be landing because we don't know their language.
Right.
And the more that we have those conversations, whether it ends in a yes or a no, we're learning their language, we're learning, their thought processes, their mindset. And that's not only going to help us to be better at the sales process, but to actually create the products and the services.
Absolutely.
Like we're going to get them more.
Yeah.
It's just powerful. So this bundle, so they can get the book,
the journal, and
the Courage Diary.
Yes.
And if you get that, so if you go to selllikealady.com and you get the bundle today, we are going to enter you. Well, I'm saying we like I'm paying for it. Nadia's paying for it, not me. But we are, you see, there I go again. Trying to take credit for stuff. Nadia is going to enter you in a drawing to win $100 Amazon gift card. So just think about what you will buy with that Amazon gift card. So make sure you head over to selllikealady.com, get your book, get the bundle that includes your journal, the courage diary, and the book, because you're going to want all three of those. And you do that today, you will be entered in the drawing. And just follow Dr. Nadia's social media. She'll be announcing that tomorrow. So good luck to you. Good luck to you. And I'm super excited now because we have a special guest here in the studio all the way from Oregon. We're sitting here in Phoenix. She came here all the way from Oregon. She's here with us today, and that is none other than Connie Van Der Zanden. Welcome, Connie.
Hi, Connie.
Hi, everybody.
Now, Connie, we asked you to be here today, number one, because you're just an awesome human being, but you have worked very closely with Dr. Nadia. And so, you know, we get to have this conversation about sales. But before we get into that, tell folks what you do and how you do it and all that good stuff.
Sure. I'm a cash flow and business mentor. I have 36 years in the accounting industry, and I work firsthand with optometrists and therapists, those in the medical services, on how to have money to support them to do great things. They're normally making big changes, and money comes up quite often, and having a sales team often comes up too.
Having a sales team often comes up.
Yeah.
So let me just ask you this. But when you started because you've been in business for a while.
20 plus years, yes.
More than 20 years.
Yeah.
And then you evolved to begin to serve people in a different way.
Yes. But, you know, businesses pivot. I think there's always a natural pivot in business about their year 5 or 7. Yes, we've pivoted a couple times. But first I was selling services, like you started out early. And it was hard to sell because it was me. It was, and first the first name of the business was Connie Van Der Zanden Bookkeeping Services. And it got different when I changed to have a team, but then there was added pressure because then now we had a team and more overhead. And those no's still were hard, but it was a commodity. When I really pivoted to change into consulting services or more like a coaching, mentoring services, then again, I was back to selling me. And I had to do it all over again. And Dr. Nadia's been there the whole way.
So when you made that transition to selling you now, what was your relationship like with sales?
Oh, I tried to avoid it. You know, and it still comes today, days I will not have calls every week. And again, it's about a cycle. I'm not always top of cycle. Usually quarterly, people want to have plans done. But yeah, I was not having them. I was not asking. We would get through a whole conversation. I love showing up for conversations. And I would go, did I ask? I never asked. I never invited people to have it. I was making judgments on whether or not they could afford it or not. And it just was, it was a rocky situation. And it was, and you get to this point of like, oh, I got to hurry. I got to get sales. I have to close a sale. And I had one just this last month that closed. I knew it was the wrong thing to say yes to, but it was a $1,500 lesson to learn to get my expert status back. So it's not like you're going to read the book and everything's going to be hunky dory. It's a growth process. And what I'm finding is as I conquer or as I find my own way through my sales process, and then I'll hit another growth roadblock and I'll have to relearn it again. But it's each time I hit the roadblock, it's easier.
When you talked about something that I see people do a lot, and I used to do this too before I started working with Dr. Nadia, and it is, you know, we're judging people's ability to pay based on maybe our own pockets.
All the time.
All the time, yeah. And especially when you're looking at their numbers too.
How did you make that shift to move beyond that?
it's now an honest conversation. You know, the reason I did many courses on selling, and I would get these work through their objections type of stuff. And it always felt really icky to work through their objections. If there's something going on, sure, we can talk about it, answer questions, but I really wanted them to have the space to make it. So now it is about, I ask up front, how do you make decisions? Mm-hmm. Do you need to sleep on it? Do you want to make, time to talk through it? And then it's about, these are the options. This is the best option I think is for you.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot of silence. I don't try to fill in the spots to make it comfortable or easier for them. I just listen. Mm-hmm. And that was hard to learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I would just add, there's a section in the book where I talk about, what if there were no such thing as overcoming objections? Because I really despise that term. And I won't spoil it for you if you buy the book. But I will say this. When you think about the words and the energy it takes to go in and deal with objections, it really shifts how you have a sales conversation, which is why it feels so icky. Yeah. And so I call it clarifying questions. Because when you think about it, most of us use inbound marketing. People raise their hands in some kind of way to get on a call with us. So they are interested on some level.
Right.
So you're now just clarifying the questions. Can they do it? Does it make sense? Is this the right option? Is this the right time? Do we have the money right now? Those are the questions you're really working through. And it shifts how the energy you have, because now I'm going in as a partner versus going in I'm demanding and overcoming objections because you're going to do this with me today.
Yeah. More of that masculine energy, this power struggle dynamic.
Right.
Yeah.
No, but if you go in as a partner, and I love that you asked, how do you make decisions? Let me honor that. Let me respect your buying process and not just focus on how I do sales, right? Yeah. It's more of a partnership, which is more naturally just kind of how we roll anyway.
Yeah.
And so now you just get to build more of that into your business.
Mm-hmm. Connie, I know that you are very heart-centered. You're very spiritual in your approaches to the work that you do and energetically how things feel for you. Are there any specific tactics or processes or things that you began to do differently that made sales feel more aligned to who you are?
The first one is our conversation, I think, at our last sales lab, was that first conversation isn't really the sales call. The first conversation is that initial relationship building. And it took off so much pressure that it didn't have to be a sales call. In fact, I don't tell them usually about my products unless they seem very interested. Mm-hmm. It's just, getting to know them, answering one question, getting a feel of who they are, who I am, and then we'll schedule another call after that.
Yeah.
So that was one thing, is releasing the tightness around that this had to show up a certain way and this is what it had to be. And the other one is it's a relationship. The book says, the book really is prominently about sales is being done but with relationship basis, not just the numbers. Sure, the data is important, but how you felt, tracking in the Courage Diary, how you felt, what are the words? One word I look for now is, what's my proof? What's my art? What am I going to expect to get out of working with you?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And as a mentor, I can't promise that. Everyone is different. But now I have key words to look for that I'm paying attention. And so it's much easier. There's much more spaciousness in the process. And I never worry about somebody needs 2 nights or 3 nights. But it is about continuing the relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the things I found too is there are times when someone may not decide to work with me. We've had all these conversations. It's a no for them, but then they'll send 5, 6 other people my way because they enjoyed the conversations. They believed that what I was doing was valuable. It just wasn't right for them in that moment.
Right.
Or perhaps ever. But had I been pushy and trying to pull them along, they wouldn't have wanted to subject anybody else to that.
Not at all. And they know that you are going to honor it. You're going to be honest. So you are also going to say to that person that they referred, if it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit.
Yeah.
And when I know that I can trust you to take care of my people,
Yep.
Even in the sales process, then I feel a lot more confident and comfortable with referrals.
Yeah. And so much of that is not being in a place of desperation either.
Right. Right. Which is challenging when the
Yeah.
cash flow is looking kind of
Ooh,
crazy,
yes,
right?
yes.
Let's be
Child,
real.
let me tell
Like
you.
we have to be honest. There are times that
Yes.
you go into a sales conversation, you're like, Lord,
Please.
please, sweet baby Jesus. Let it all line up.
Oh, yes.
But let me not sound desperate. Amen.
Oh my goodness. Connie, if there was somebody who is wanting to make those adjustments to feel more comfortable selling and they're thinking about working with Dr. Nadia, what would you share with them?
I think if they have tried all the things and they keep hitting roadblocks and they are just really uncomfortable and avoiding sales, I mean, they would be the last thing I would want to do in a day. And you know that your business is seeing some cash issues. It, of course, as we just said, it's not going to happen overnight. But if you're willing to work on it and create something that's customized for you, that meets your energy needs, meets how you approach the conversation, then I would definitely pick up the book, read it, but you will be more likely in the next sales lab, whenever that next one is. And just getting on a call with Dr. Nadia and having a conversation guide built or something. It doesn't have to be a full lab, but I would recommend it. I think it's well worth everything I've worked with her. We've done 2 labs. I have my own conversation guide. I love the Courage Diary. And you just have to work through all that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can tell you, even from my own experiences, like I didn't like selling. And for me, it was this feeling of I'm bothering people because anytime I felt like I didn't like feeling like somebody was trying to sell me.
Right. No one wants to be sold.
Nobody wants to be sold.
But we like to buy.
Yeah. But how do you buy if you don't know
Exactly.
what's out there?
Yeah.
And so I had to make that shift and, not only realizing, okay, if somebody's reaching out to you and they want to know more, you're not bothering them.
No.
But you're actually doing them a disservice if they have a problem and you have that solution and you're not telling them how it lines up and helping them to be able to properly evaluate if that's a fit for them.
I have a story about this.
Ooh, let's hear it.
A real life story that I have to remind myself. So, as I was going through Nadia's own internal drama, it was scandalous good, but it was drama nonetheless. And I was not ready. I kept telling myself I'm not ready. I can't do this in terms of, launching the agency and supporting clients and doing sales and that sort of thing. And when I finally stopped, I stopped being a drama queen, and I started talking to my network and letting them know, like, I know I used to do this and now I do this. And one of the people that I had met years ago, she goes, oh my gosh, I think one of my clients needs you. So I meet her client. We have the conversation. She hires me. I'm on her team. And one day we're talking because we worked very closely together for about 2 years, like traveling, like we were close. Like I was in it with her and building her company. And she goes, oh, you're an answer to my prayers. I was looking for someone that provided the exact services that you provide, and I couldn't find anyone. And she went and hired someone else who sort of kind of did it, but not right exactly. And that ended up being a mess. Like that relation, it was just a whole mess. But it's that reminder that someone was actually praying for what I had to offer. And I was sitting in my office being a drama queen. Like, I can't do this and I don't know what I'm doing. And will anyone buy this? Like, it was a whole hot mess.
Why do we do that?
Yeah. It was a mess. And so then, like we were traveling. So she's sitting right here in my face across the table from me. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. So sorry. So that's my reminder anytime. Like even with the book, it was like, Nadia, get yourself together.
Yeah.
Is that someone is needing what you have to offer
Yes.
in the way that you provide it. Because at that
Yes.
time I was like, I don't even know anyone else who's doing this like this. But there was several someones actually who were looking for that exact thing. And I was the holdup because they couldn't find me.
Yeah. So many someones needed it that you created a whole sales agency.
Right. And work with lots of clients. We've
Yes.
done millions of dollars in sales. Like, it's been
Yes.
crazy. It's been fabulous.
So a couple of clients of yours who work together, Diana and Jamie.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about them and the work that they do.
So Diana and Jamie work with organizations, primarily nonprofits, and they work with groups to really bring the people together to better communicate. Because, anybody's been a corporate or, at a large organization, you know how communication is sometimes not that great.
Yeah.
And so they work with these teams and bringing them together to really pull out, to really help them understand how to communicate, but also to realize that everything that you need is right here in your organization. You just don't know it. And so they work with companies sometimes over years to really help them build these processes and bring their teams together. And we had a lot of fun during our time together because they were not feeling that whole sales or business development thing at all.
Oh, well, they wanted to be here with us today, but they couldn't, but they sent a video. And so we are going to hear from Diana and Jamie about their experience in working with you and the Doyen Agency. So let's take a look.
Because our work has always been bringing people face to face into groups to spend a good bit of time together, it had the pandemic had just thrown that into a bit of a problem area. And our work, a lot of the work we had been doing was not able to really continue in the same way. And then new projects weren't about to start when it involved bringing people together.
I mean, the special thing about working with you is that you did take time to understand who we are as individuals. I think because that is at the core of who we are as a company. That's how we work, and understanding that we are relational and that our work is about building on trust and relationships. You were able to coach us around finding ways to use those skills in business development. I think you brought a lot of creativity to the ways that we could approach making ourselves known to the right kinds of clients.
I have to say, it's also just a pleasure to work with you because you are easy to talk to. You have a great sense of humor. It's just a good conversation, and enjoyable conversation.
The value in working with you beyond the pleasurable interactions and the easy conversations and the comfortable Zoom environments that you create, I would say you have a real talent, a real artful talent in hearing who we are and what we do, and then putting it into language that feels true to who we are, but strengthens and clarifies our message and our, what we have to offer in a way that we've worked with other people before. And, there's sometimes with business development and collateral building, this sharp edge to it that just never really feels right to us in the work we do, though we have done that. And your style is much, it's more artful. There's more of an emotional element that actually really reflects the work we do. So that's been hugely valuable to me, just to have that language, which we have used in proposals, and we use it in our negotiating. So yeah, I mean, just it's all been a pleasure. And then we do have some really valuable materials that feel true to who we are and don't feel canned or, like you've done it for 15 other people. It really does feel custom. And that's, you can't ask for more than that in that situation, I think, especially for a small business like what we are.
I also remember, now that I'm thinking about it, that you were very patient with me, because I remember me saying, no, I will not, I can't do that. No, no.
I'm sure Dr. Nadia has never heard that before.
And you must do a great job as a mother, because you just dealt with that. Okay, I hear what you're saying, and we kept going.
I would say don't be afraid of it if it's not something you're comfortable with or excited about, to put those expectations aside and enter into the process with an open mind and an open heart, because I think the way you work and your team is very holistic, and I can just imagine that you are really well positioned to take on any personality type or any kind of business. So, I mean, for me, it would just be, don't resist it so much. I resisted it, though you came so highly recommended. I didn't have a worry about that, but I did worry about, is this just going to be annoying? Am I really not going to be excited about this? And it wasn't like that. So yeah, that would be my advice.
I would say, I would always recommend you. And I would say, just start out by being really honest and straightforward with Dr. Nadia, and have some faith that can take you some places you might not expect.
Thank you, Diana and Jamie, for sharing that. Now, Dr. Nadia, one of the things that they talked about is, just coming into the process kind of apprehensive or basing it on experiences that they've had in the past. If you're working with a sales team, what can they expect from you in terms of what that process might look or feel like?
One, it's really getting to know you and understanding your voice. And so I think a lot of times people are taken aback because they're like, aren't you just going to come in and fix all the things? And I'm like, I can't fix it until I understand you, because I need to understand your voice, but then also who's a great client. So one of the questions we ask when our team does sales for people is, how do we know when it's the right client? Because the last thing I want to do is you call me and be like, why did you enroll this person in my program? Because we work with a lot of coaches. So you work closely with these people. And it's like, I don't like this person. And so taking people through that process and helping them to understand, it's not a quick fix. And so one of the things as it relates to teams that I see people do all the time is they wait too long to build their team or outsource their sales support. And now they're desperate. And it just like desperation doesn't work in the sales conversation, desperation does not work when you're building your sales team. And it just causes a lot of friction. So when you're thinking about growing your team, whether it's internal or outsourcing, start before you feel like you're ready. Start having those conversations or thinking through your process, recording your calls. What is your language? How do people know that this is my favorite type of client? Because they're essentially representing you and they need to understand your voice.
Yes, excellent. Well, if you're just joining us, we are here celebrating the launch of Dr. Nadia Brown's brand new book, Sell Like a Lady, How to Master Sales with Dignity, Class, and Grace. And you can go to selllikealady.com and you can get your copy today. But not only is there just a book, as if the book wasn't enough, but there are 2 additional resources you can get. You can get the journal, and you can get the Courage Diary. And throughout the book, there are continuous exercises that get you to think about how to apply it, so that journal is there for you. And the Courage Diary is going to be a wonderful tool for you as you are walking through the process, making those calls. I love my Courage Diary, and I encourage you to get yours. But here's the kicker. So if you order the bundle today, so if you get all three of those resources, Dr. Nadia, because I keep saying I'm going to do it or we're going to do it. It's her, because she's paying for it. Dr. Nadia is going to enter you in a drawing for a $100 Amazon gift card. Now, I know what I could do with $100 on Amazon. I don't know what you want to do with it, but let's find out. So go ahead and order your bundle. We're going to find out tomorrow who got it, and I would love to know what you're going to do with that when you win that gift card. But now we are joined by another special guest. Like I told you, if you've been watching from the beginning, that she was hanging out behind the camera here in the studio with us, and that is our good friend Lavista Jones. She's here with us. If you've been in the chat, then you've probably been hanging out with her. And so we're going to do a couple of things here with Lavista. We want to take some of the questions that have come through from you on the chat across the platforms. We're live on 3 platforms. And Lavista, you work with Dr. Nadia too. So I would love to hear not only about your work with Dr. Nadia, but as a business owner, and specifically as a woman business owner, what your relationship with sales is like. But let's get to those audience questions first. What do you got?
Awesome. So the first one for you, Dr. Nadia, is what sales advice would you give a new entrepreneur that is new to sales?
Ooh, good question.
Very good question. One, I would say to take a deep breath because sales is scary, right? And when you think about sales and having sales conversations, we don't want to do them. Like I could relate to when Connie was like, I didn't ask for the sale. It's like, oh. So I would say take a deep breath, pay attention. So start being very intentional about paying attention to the thoughts that are coming up, and draft what I would call your conversation guide. Like, what are the questions that you need to ask to know if this is the right fit for you, if it's the right client, you know, to know which service to provide. So just do some preliminary homework. It'll also help you to feel more confident when you do actually have a sales call. And then the other thing I would say is try to book and schedule as many, I know this is going to feel counterintuitive, but trust me on this, schedule as many sales conversations as you can and have them, because practice will help you also to gain your confidence. And what we typically do is we just try not to do it at all.
Yeah.
So talk to the people.
Talk to the people.
Talk.
Talk to the people. Talk to the people.
Yes.
All right, Lavista, what else we got?
So we have another one, and it's from earlier in the conversation, right? When you were talking about buying cycles. So how long does it typically take to understand a client's buying cycle?
Ooh, that's
a really good
question.
one. It depends. So, that's the short answer. It really depends. It's one of the reasons why I invite people like quarterly or monthly, but quarterly tends to work a little bit better, is to start to go back and review your data, because it also takes a while for you to create your own data, right? And so when you start tracking information, then it allows you to understand. So as much information that you can begin to track, and then just set aside time to go back and review it. So like Connie mentioned her own cycles, I noticed that when I started tracking my own revenue, I have certain cycles. And so it helps me to understand that I either need to make a lot more money to carry me through a slower period, or I need to make adjustments in my own business so that we don't have months where we start to see a dip. Yeah. But of course, it took a couple years, right, of me tracking, being very intentional about tracking that data, and then going back to look at the data. Because sometimes we have the data and we just don't look at it, right? Like, how many of us don't want to look at our numbers? I had those numbers, I'm like, la, 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 la. I just don't want to look at them. But when you go back and you look at the data, then you can really start to understand, you know, what the cycles are. And then, of course, you know, those can be influenced or impacted by things that are going on in the industry or in the economy. Like, all those things can be disruptive. But I think the biggest thing is to commit to tracking the information and then commit to actually reviewing it so you can better understand what those cycles look like.
Yeah.
That's good.
All right, I want to jump in here really quick because you talked about cycles. So one of the things real time right now that we are dealing with is everybody is fearing this impending recession. So if you're a business owner, what are some of the things that you may want to be doing right now to prepare what may happen in the economy?
You need to be having sales conversations, right? Like, I think that one of the things that we often will do, it's natural. We start to retract. So you're like, I'm not spending, I'm not doing this. And it's like, be intentional, like, you know, be responsible, if you will, but also don't retract in fear.
Yeah.
So having sales conversations, looking at your own numbers, understanding, you know, where you are with cash reserves, how long could you float if something were to happen? But can you take on more clients right now? Like, don't go hide in a corner, basically, is what I'm saying. Like, have the conversations, continue to make sales. People are still buying. Like, yes, there's a lot of things going on in the world, but people are still making buying decisions. It may take them a little bit longer to make a decision because they're being more discerning, but that's why you need to be in conversation. You need to be really clear on the benefits you provide or the ways that you solve their problems, right? Because people are going to continue to buy, even if we do go into a recession. People are still going to be making money. So you just need to position yourself in such a way that you can continue to grow your business. It may also require you to slim down. So you may drop some offers so you can be really focused and lean. And that can also carry, because sometimes, and that's a whole nother conversation, but you might want to get rid of your McDonald's menu of offers and have like 3 or 2 or 1.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I so want to get into that conversation, but we won't.
That's another conversation for another day, right?
I want to, but we won't. All right, we won't. Any other questions?
Yes, we have one. This one is got some urgency behind it. Okay, so it is, I am new to all of this, and I have a very short time frame before my first sales event. What are your top tips in preparing mentally and practically for my upcoming event? And did I mention I am nervous?
So, one, I would
Great
say
question.
breathe, like breathe. And then, you know, events are their own special beast, right? Like, because having an event, all the pieces that go into an event, it's a lot. It can be very stressful. So get support. So if you don't have support, get support. Making sure that you have people there to support you in doing all the things that don't require you. So you have your energy for what does require your attention. And then also, because, and my friends know this, when you're having an event, what's the first question I always ask y'all?
What's your offer?
Thank you. So what is your offer? Why are these people convening and gathering with you over however many days? What are you selling them? What are you inviting them to take that next step with you after the event? And then gear all of your content, all of your exercises, everything is geared toward that next step.
Yes. All right. Anything else?
I've got one more to ask the woman of the hour. So, is this book structured in a way that I have to start addressing my mindset or self, like in that first chapter? Or is the content fluid enough that I can jump through to the 4th chapter or go to the 6th chapter and still reap the results without having to start from ground zero?
So someone that reads sometimes like Nadia reads. It is designed, and I think I say invite you to jump around, right? Like, because while a lot of us need to start with the mindset or go back and refresh, right? You can jump around and really deal or address some of those issues. Like, some of you may be already at a point where you're ready to talk about teams. We talk about sales team, we talk about systems. So you can jump right to that section and do the exercises and really get the support or the resource that you need to move your business forward. So no, you don't have to start at the beginning. If you don't want to, you can jump around.
All right, LaVista.
Yes, Aisha.
Entrepreneur lady.
Yes.
Boss lady.
Yes.
Boss lady.
Yes.
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 And I'm saying that because you have a book coming out.
I do.
You
I
tell
do.
us about that, and then we're gonna back up and then we'll talk about your business.
Yes. So my book, The Boss Shift, is coming out in a few weeks. It's coming out in October, and it really is walking through the framework that I use with my clients' boss, which is battling overwhelm with systems and self-care. So it's marrying those two things to help you build a business that nurtures you instead of one that just completely depletes you and has you on the road to burnout.
Yeah. What led you to discovering, hey, this is the problem that I want to solve in the world?
First, primarily, is my own burnout experience, and having to recover from that, and just experience it in general. You know, it was very rough. Anybody that has actually gone through it knows, like, it is nothing that you want to ever experience again, right? And so it was also seeing the habits that led me to burning out, seeing so many of my fellow entrepreneurs doing the exact same thing in their businesses. And it's, you know, nobody that I know starts a business wanting to resent their business because they are so overwhelmed, so overworked, so exhausted, you know, and they're just like, F this business. And, you know, all the time and energy and resources they have put into building it. Like, that's not business goals typically when you say, I'm going to start this business. So I knew that having my own experience and, like I said, seeing what I see in the marketplace, that I had to take action for us to disrupt this hustle and, like, start doing business in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. How long have you been in business?
Well, I originally started in 2005, and I started doing more VA style work, and then I got recruited to come back into corporate America, so I took a break, and I relaunched the business back in 2014.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So when you relaunched in 2014, coming out of corporate America, where you have that check that you know is coming on those same days every month,
Yes.
and you know that predictability of your income to full-time entrepreneurship, what was that like for you?
Oh,
I think we can all fill in the blank.
right? Like, we'll probably keep it PG, 13. But it was just like, it was scary, right? Because especially at that particular season in my life, I had been the breadwinner for my family. And so I felt extreme pressure to, like, okay, like, day one, I've got to bring in like $1 million in sales today to, like, keep up with, this lifestyle and this income, that I had in corporate America, and, like, really put that pressure on myself. Like, I've got to do this, like, right out the gate, first day behind the desk, right?
Yeah. No.
Not so realistic.
Not gonna happen.
It didn't happen. It didn't happen.
Yeah. At what point did you realize that what you were doing wasn't working when it came to sales?
It was when I started seriously contemplating just going back into corporate. It was like, just for the reasons that you were talking about, there is the structure and, like, the stability of, like, the money. And it was just like, that's what I need right now. Like, I'm not doing something right. This is not working. I've got to go back and do something that's actually going to be stable, because I'm not able to do that on my own.
Yeah. And so how did you and this lady over here hook up?
Well,
Funny story.
at that point, we were already friends, and I think we were already working together. I was supporting Dr. Nadia in her business, and was just kind of having a really frank conversation with her, like, this is cool, right? Like, I love you. I love supporting you and your vision, but I can't pay my mortgage on this is cool, right? And so I was telling her, I think I need to go back and get a real job, because this is not working. And one of the things, like, we were just talking, she, because she understood, like, where I was coming from. She was like, I get it. And we just kind of started talking about, like, my sales process, like, what my pipeline looked like, what my leads and things look like. And one of the things that we discovered was that, for whatever reason, that when I left corporate America, I felt like I had left all of that experience back in corporate America that I was bringing now with my private clients. And my price reflected that, right? And she's like, you know, okay, you're not there anymore, but you still have your same mind.
Right.
You still have your same experience. You still have your same expertise. You are not reflecting that in the value that you are, you know, sharing with like clients and leads and things like that. And just, you know, having her challenge that mindset that I had just kind of put on, like, oh, I can't charge that because like I'm new at business. And it's like, but I'm not though. Like I
Right.
have been doing this for years.
At a very high level, might
Yeah.
I say.
Yes. For years. And it was just like, oh, okay. And so I had to have that real conversation with myself, stretch myself to, you know, look at my prices and really look at realistic numbers. And with the help of my coach, and she doesn't like being called my coach, but that's exactly what she is I think it was like that very next quarter, it was like a 400% turnaround in my revenue. And that is what allowed me to keep at it and not go back into corporate.
Excellent. So if anybody is, you know, struggling on the, I used to call it looking at porn, you know, when you've committed to being a full-time entrepreneur and you don't want to get a full-time job, but it's like, let me just look at LinkedIn real quick and see what's going on over there. You know, it's one thing if you've made a conscious decision, like, nope, I need to get a job. Nothing wrong with that. But when you don't want to and that's looking at porn, looking at job porn.
That's when LinkedIn becomes a sneaky link. Like,
Yep. Or Indeed. Indeed is the other one.
Indeed, too.
All
All of
going
them.
on.
Get this on this app real quick.
Right. So if anybody is trying to prevent looking at job porn
Just
because
saying.
they want to remain full-time entrepreneurs,
Oh my God.
what would you say to encourage them to get that help in the process from Dr. Nadia, whether it's in being able to work with her through one of her programs or at the very least getting the book?
Yeah. I would say reconnect with your why. Why did you start this business in the first place? And so I knew, especially coming back into working with clients privately after my burnout experience, like I knew the mission that I was on. And I also knew that I wanted to engage in my work differently. I wanted to have time freedom for myself, you know, to be with my family, to actually live a life that I wasn't able to, you know, really do when I was in a corporate position. Like these are all the things that I think that so many entrepreneurs like want for themselves. And so I had to reconnect with like, why am I doing this? And you know, those were some of those things for me, but it was like, what are the whys for like my community and my audience? And like you guys were saying that I know that I'm the answer to somebody's problem.
Yeah.
I'm the answer. And so if I quit, like what's going to happen?
Yeah.
What's going to happen?
Yeah.
And so I had to reconnect with my why. And that allowed me to get over the fear of, you know, picking up the phone calls. Because I would get that from Nadia too, like make the phone calls. And I'm like, I don't want to, because nobody wants to be rejected. But that was the thing that did it for me, reconnecting with my why.
Yes.
That's
yes.
awesome.
So Martin, I see we've got a number of questions that have come through. And look, my glasses are actually working today. I can read them. So
wow.
let's bring up that. There we go, right there from our dear friend Kendra Tillman. What are some of the misconceptions or myths we believe that keep us from making the money we want to make in our business? Ooh.
There's so many. I don't even know where to start. I think one, going to what LaVista was sharing, is that somehow people won't pay what we charge, right? Like we hear that all the time. And so we're afraid to really add a value or a dollar. Or this is one misconception I want to talk about right quick, is that you need to charge what you're worth. You can never charge what you're worth. You, my dear, are priceless.
Yes.
So let's just go ahead and take that off the table. And now let's talk about the value you provide to your clients, right? So
Yes.
looking at how are they different? Also looking at, you know, coming up with pricing that actually is based in something. Because I think sometimes we just pull numbers out the air, right? I'm just going to charge $500 for this because I need $500 to pay a bill. Like
Yes.
that is sometimes what drives our, and it's like,
That's
what?
what I used to do when I started.
What are we doing right now. Like, you provide all this value and they're paying $500. So really taking a moment to look at your pricing and what does it really take, like how much, and I know we don't necessarily charge by hour, but if you were to pay yourself an hourly wage, what would that be? And if you're a coach, how many hours do you work with your clients? And you can roll all of that in. What's the value of the resources they get? What's the value of your team coming in? Because you have to pay your team or you're going to be in trouble. Ask me how I know. Right? So actually creating pricing that's based in something so that it makes sense. And when it makes sense to you, then you don't have as big a problem. You still may have a problem, but it won't be as challenging because you're like, oh, wait, no, this is for my time. This is for my team. This is the value you get. When clients work with me, I'm like, no matter what I charge, you're going to get so much more value, right? Yes. And so when you really own that and you know the value you bring to your clients, and for many of us, it's a ripple effect. So we have such a massive impact because like when LaVista works with a client and she's supporting a client and she's helping that client take better care of herself and helping her with whatever's going on in her business or operations, that's freeing that client up to be a better person, be a better friend, be a better sister, be a better wife, be a better mom. Her family is thankful that they don't have the little monster lady anymore running around the house, right? Do you ever factor that into your pricing?
I do now after working with you.
Yeah, because you're like, hold up. Not only am I helping my client, but everyone attached to my client benefits from the work that I do. Yes. And that really starts to shift that conversation around how you do your pricing. But most of us just create pricing out of thin air, and that's problematic.
Yes, yes. Well, LaVista, we thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, this was good.
I'm so excited. Yes, if you are there and still submitting your questions, continue to do so. Dr. Nadia will go back in and answer your questions in the chat if we didn't get a chance to do so here. And if you're just tuning in and wondering, like, what in the world are they even talking about? We are here to celebrate the launch of Dr. Nadia Brown's new book, Sell Like a Lady: How to Master Sales with Dignity, Class, and Grace. And you can get that book today at selllikealady.com. And not only can you get the book, but you can also get 2 additional resources that Dr. Nadia has prepared for us. You can get the journal because there are lots of journaling exercises that are in the book. And so you have them all in one place. You can easily put your hands on it and refer back to it. Because if you're like me, like I will start a new journal like every year. And then I have like really good stuff in it. And then I have to try to figure out like 2 years from now which journal I had all those good nuggets in. But this is your sales journal. So all of your good notes related to that process and your mindset and your evolution, they're all going to be there in one place where years from now you'll be able to put your hands on them. And she has the Courage Diary, and the Courage Diary is going to be that friend that, that teammate that's going to come alongside of you in paper form to track your process, to keep you honest. Because you can say, oh, I'm putting in the work, I'm making calls, I'm reaching out to people, but are you really? Are you really? The Courage Diary is going to tell the truth about it, and it's going to give you those wins to celebrate. It's going to give you an opportunity to be able to track that important information that's going to allow you to be able to serve your clients better, to build better programs, to have better conversations, all of that. And it's all in one place. And so I encourage you, go to selllikealady.com, get the book, get the journal, get the Courage Diary. And if you do that today, Dr. Nadia is going to enter you in a drawing to win a $100 Amazon gift card. And so the winner will be announced tomorrow. And so depending on which coast you're on, if you're on the East Coast, your tomorrow is sooner than our tomorrow. You can just go off of our tomorrow.
Our tomorrow.
And she'll announce that winner. So good luck to you on that. And we are joined by our final guest right now. Our community is so amazing. And that's one of the things. I'm originally from Michigan. There are wonderful people in Michigan. But I'll tell you, when I moved here to the Phoenix area, I have been able to connect with so many wonderful entrepreneurs. And today we get to have wonderful conversations with so many of them. And one of them is Lauren Morgan, Esquire. I just love saying that. Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so excited. Seriously.
Yes. So, Lauren, tell us about your law practice, because it is not a traditional practice, and by choice.
Yes, in representing Christ, you want to be set apart as much as possible. In doing so, you also mean that you stay true to your purpose and rework that in doing it. So I am a boutique law firm that practices with businesses and being proactive in their business and not reactive, right? So I don't do any litigation. We don't go to court, because I'm a firm believer that if you have the right foundation in place, if you are doing the right things to mitigate your risk for lawsuits, we can't prevent them altogether, because people can do frivolous lawsuits, but you can greatly protect yourself and your peace of mind around getting sued. So that is my practice. That's my focus, and working with entrepreneurs to protect their businesses.
Excellent. Excellent. So you've been in business for how long now?
Oh my goodness. 5 years.
So coming out of law school, now all of a sudden being, having this very specialized body of knowledge, but you got to sell it. It isn't enough to know the stuff. You got to sell the stuff,
And
right?
they don't teach you that in law school.
They don't teach you that in law school. So what did that look like for you as you were trying to figure that process out in the beginning?
It was a little intimidating. Not a little bit. It was a lot of bit intimidating. And so I didn't know. I'm just naturally personal, but I love to help people and to give things. And so it just looked like I wanted to help people and to do that. But now I need to make a living. And now I have to see some return on the services that I'm providing. And so that was a little bit of a transition for me, honestly. I needed a lot of help. I didn't know what to do. And I had known Dr. Nadia for a while, but I was like, you do this? Why didn't I know that you do this?
Probably because I was hiding out somewhere.
And so once I knew that she was the person I needed to work with, I was like, oh, yes, I need to work with you. And my goodness, I'm so happy that I did. That's why I'm so excited for this book, because I know it is going to really help so many business owners. And it's not just women, men can be impacted. For anyone that is in business can really benefit from this book. And so I'm so excited for it, because it really did change the game for me.
Yeah. How did working with Dr. Nadia change the game for you and really adjust that relationship with sales?
Honestly, she really broke sales down for me and gave me a customized plan for my business, which I think is important. So many people want to go out and mimic what they saw or what they are, what they've experienced in the sales process. And it's not going to work for you, right? Because you have a niche audience, you have your own special offerings that are unique to you, and you need to deliver on that. So she really helped me in breaking it down and focusing in on on my sales playbook is what she calls it. And so I went back and I looked at it a few weeks ago after I read the book. I said, I need to go back to this sales playbook and look at some things, make sure I implemented this or what I need to rework or revisit. And she really helped me hone in on how to get myself out there, the conversations that I need to be having specific for my field in law, and how to do it naturally based off of my personality. We had conversations. She asked if she could record it so that it was customized to me and making sure that it fit my tone of voice. So I would sound like Lauren, which is really important because, as she mentioned earlier, in service-based, I'm selling Lauren.
Yeah.
People want to work with me outside of another lawyer because of Lauren and her beliefs and my processing.
Yeah.
So it was a really good process with her.
One of the things that we've talked about throughout our time together today is how really being able to increase the revenue in your business allows things. It allows you to make that bigger impact in the world, as Dr. Nadia talked about. It allows you to be able to create the life that you want. As you've seen the sales in your law firm increase, what are some of the things that has allowed for you?
It has allowed me to take my business completely virtual and to travel the world. So that's one of the things. Last year during the pandemic, I was like, I'm working remotely and it's kind of boring. It's kind of stale looking at walls. People aren't leaving the house. And I was inspired to say, if I was going to work from home and do this, at least do it with a view. Let me get out here and do somewhere. So I sold all of my stuff and left the country for 6 months and just worked remotely, and it was so freeing, and it honestly gave me a new perspective on life, on business, just really rejuvenated me and my purpose, I believe, to allow me to make a lot of changes in my business, do things differently, but just to have a fresh perspective and appreciation for what I'm able to do. I love what I do, and it's a blessing to get up and to be able to do what I love every day, right? But also the people who I'm called to help, and so it's like, how can I better serve them? And I needed to make some pivots and do things differently in my business, but also what I learned most importantly was that I needed a support team. I needed some people to help me along in this process. So it being able to get sales in and to solidify that have enabled me to build a team to support and to help. And I'm only going to shout her out because she was just our previous guest, but getting those systems in place and being able to have self-care from Lavisa. She provides that service. Shameless plug for her because she's awesome. It's just amazing to work with her and the support that she provides, and having a team on your side relieves so much stress. The first call I had where I was like, oh! The next call she's like, this is much better. It's like, thank you. It's because of you. So, yes, it's very important to make sure you have that foundation in place, and that you are, when you get the sales, positioning yourself, right? Making sure that you're prepared when they come in. You need some support and team to help you handle that, right? So all of these things are coming in. Do I have the right client? Do I have the right systems that are going to send them the emails and follow up with them? That is important to be able to sustain the sales. And if you don't, you will hit a brick wall, and all of the success and sales that you prayed for and wanted for are there, and you can't handle it. And now you're overwhelmed and you have to take a step back. So Dr. Nadia talks about it in the book, the systems and having it in place. And I can't stress it enough how important and vital it is not to skip those steps. We think it's, I need to get this sale first and I need to get this sale. But what happens when they go and tell 10 people and now you have 10 sales and you don't have the system in place to maintain those 10 sales?
Ooh, that's a whole word.
A
right
whole
there.
word.
So if somebody is, on that fence, they're like, wait, but I got to make more money first before I get a team, before I make these investments. What would you say to them to get them to realize, like, this is a critical investment, because if you don't make it, things may fall apart?
Yeah, honestly, burnout is very, very, very real. And if you do not take care of yourself and sustain yourself by getting help, by getting a team, and I just go back to this so much because I was going to text Dr. Nadia when I was reading the book. I had a life epiphany moment and was just so thankful because she talks about, not having to be so strong and take on the stigmas of the men in sales and things like that. And asking for help is one of those things that sometimes we as, strong women in business and entrepreneurs might shy away from. But it's important because having a team shows that you care about not just yourself, but your clients and the process, and wanting to make sure that everything is in place to be able to provide that support. And so I know the feeling comes up, and so start small, right? Start with a VA that you have a few hours a week, right? And scale it up according to your needs. But please get help, right? It's vital. We think that we don't need help, but when you get it in the end, you are so much more thankful. Also, this is one of the things that I read once, and I was like, oh, this is so good. You need to hire someone that is going to make you money, right? So you don't think about, I'm hiring someone that is costing me money. You're hiring and you're giving them tasks and tools that are actually bringing you in more money, right? Mm-hmm. So my time is valuable, but I now have a VA that is doing admin skills so I can show up for my clients even more. So you're making me money by handling these administrative tasks that I would have done, that I actually have more return on my investment and my value when I show up for my clients that are paying for me, and I can focus on them. And now, they're getting more work for me because I'm present for them and they're having a better service experience. And so now they refer me more and things like that because I've outsourced what was taking me, a couple hours to do each week. It doesn't have to be a lot. It can be small, but I promise those little tiny moments and hours add up to a huge impact on allowing you to have a clearer mindset so you can show up for your clients in that presence. allowing you to yield more return on your investment, honestly. So
Yes.
it's worth it.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Lauren.
Yes.
That is, yeah, it is just, and it all comes back to, again, when we talked about for fear. You know, so sometimes we're afraid because things aren't looking like we want them to look, and then all the success that we pray for, all the sales that we pray for come through, and then there's that fear of actually building in the capacity to handle it. But
Yeah.
we've got to be courageous, right?
You have to be courageous. And I love what Lauren talked about, because a lot of times there is that fear around getting support, but we spend so much time doing things that are outside of our zone of genius. So can you imagine me in Canva? Like, that's just not my lane. But if Nadia had to create graphics where someone else could do it in like a minute, it would take me hours. And so really looking at those tasks that seemingly are simple, but like Lauren said, that you can outsource to someone else. And I love how you just reframed it. No, my team is actually helping to make me money, and, you know, building in your KPIs so you can understand the value that they bring. It'll definitely help you adjust your decision.
Yes, yes. Well, as we get ready to draw to a close, we've got one last segment so that we can get to know the woman behind the book a little bit better. So, you know, we're gonna dig into 5 facts about Nadia, and I'll tell you, I've known her for over a decade. I don't know the answers to these questions, so I am very much looking forward to it.
Now
So
I'm really nervous.
here we go. Dr. Nadia, what was your favorite cartoon growing up?
Oh my gosh. Pink Panther. I even had a Pink Panther bike.
Oh, interesting. Who was your favorite celebrity crush as a teenager?
I don't think I don't recall having a celebrity crush.
No celebrity crush. No singers. No New Edition. Nobody.
Okay, I'm probably going to say something that's going to be very unpopular. I remember New Edition, and it took me a while to get into them. It took me getting older. I was not a fast fan.
Shame.
I'm sorry. I was not a fast fan.
I love you anyway.
Thank you. Thank you.
What's your perfect veg out day?
Oh my gosh. So I am raising my daughter. We have what we call in my house lazy lima bean days. And we stay in our PJs. Even when we take a shower, we put on fresh PJs, and we watch movies. We hang out in the house. We order Uber Eats or DoorDash, and we just lounge. And that is our perfect day. Yeah. To the point that she now even requests them. She's like, I need a lazy lima bean day. And I'm like, okay.
I love that. See, we're teaching the baby self-care right away.
Yep.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Any vacation destination you can choose, where would it be?
Oh, I love to travel. So, that one is hard. Oh my, I have a list, but I only have to narrow it down to one. Bali.
Yeah.
I want to go.
That's
so
way up
stinking
there.
bad.
And finally, what is one thing on your bucket list that you haven't crossed off yet?
Oh my gosh. I would say this is probably an easy one though, is take my family going to Hawaii. Like that's such a simple one, and we have yet to do it. Ridiculous, I know, but yeah.
All right, so when we're going to Hawaii?
You see, y'all hear this? When are we going to Hawaii? Well, as soon as we coordinate our schedules, then we shall go to Hawaii.
All right. Well, as we get ready to wrap up, anything else that you'd like to share with readers, with people that may want to reach out you to get help for their support team, any of those things that are just saying, yep, I need you.
I will say this. I know we talked a lot about like the Amazon gift card, but there are also a ton of additional resources on the website. There are some great bonuses that will expire tomorrow. And so if you get the book, you get access to a training that I've done, Tighten Up Your Sales Game, to really just get right in there to get support on that. You get access to my previous book, Leading Like a Lady. And then with the book, not only are there resources that you see like in a journal, but there are other resources that we have that you can download either from the Courage Diary or from the book. So I wrote this book, one, with the intention of this being it. Like I always write my books like this is it. I'm never writing another book in my life. And that's not true. But with that, there were a lot of resources that I was consciously thinking of, like how can I support them in this way, or how can I support them in that way? And so you'll find that those resources are available. The other thing is, I would say get support. Like we had a question earlier about an event. Events are big. We've done a lot of event support. And so just whether it's my team, there's tons of teams out there to support you. You can build your own. But when you're going into your business, whether it's a launch, because a lot of people are on launch cycles, or an actual event, get the support. So you're not trying to be in the front of the room and then run to the back of the room to take order forms or answer questions. Like, get support. And like Lauren said, support is going to actually bring you money.
Yeah.
Your sales team should be bringing you a lot of money. And so just really inviting and encouraging people to really start to look at their businesses in a different way, and to ask for that support and to build in those teams. Because a lot of times we wait too late and we're just trying to carry all of this on our shoulders. Yeah. And then we're like, oh, wait, I'm drowning or I'm burned out. And now it's just that much harder, to get those things in place when you can't even get out of bed. You're definitely not thinking clearly, right? And so it's really hard to make CEO decisions when you're sleepy.
Yeah. Well, you have that directive. Get help. We want to see you successful. We want to see you in business for years to come. And you cannot do that by yourself. No. And I'm glad that we were not here by ourselves today. So thank you so much for joining. And encourage you again, make sure you get the book, Sell Like a Lady. You can grab that at selllikealady.com, along with all of those bonus items that Dr. Nadia just shared that expire today, tomorrow.
So
we'll get on it. Tomorrow. We're going to give you till tomorrow, because you might not see this till late, so we're going to give you grace, because that's one of the things, selling with dignity, class, and grace. So we're going to give you some grace. So make sure that you grab the book, get help. We wish you all the success in the world. And we will see you next time, because she's not done writing books and doing big things. So we'll be back here to talk about more things. And we will see you when we do. My name is Aisha Cogborn. Have a wonderful day, everybody. On purpose.